Well, good afternoon, everyone. Matt over here at SFREP. Glad you could join me today on this webinar on Introduction to Appraise-It Pro. So we usually do this webinar maybe once a month, but today we're going to, now if you're a current Appraise-It or if you're a current SFREP customer, you're in the right place, but we are going to gear this webinar a little bit more towards those that are thinking about moving over or are curious about SFREP and Appraise-It Pro. So just hang in there. I may be going over a little bit of stuff that you already know if you're already a customer with SFREP. So my name is Matt Johnson. I am the Communications Director over at SFREP. Been with the company for about 18 years now. I would say most of our employees have been with the company for 5 years or more. It's a great company to work for. And if you're thinking about moving over to SFREP, welcome. And I think you'll find that our product is in a lot of ways superior to what's currently out there. It's definitely the most technologically advanced appraisal software that's out on the market right now. We rewrote our software from the ground up in 2019, right before the pandemic. And so now we are in a great place when the new UAD is going to come out. And a lot of people are asking us about what we're going to be doing for the new AD, when we're going to have like any kind of timeline we have for that. We are currently working on it like all the other appraisal software companies are. We are expecting to be ready within the time. We don't love the timeline that they've put forth, but we're going to definitely be ready within that timeline. So keep an eye on our emails that we send out and on our schedule for webinars, which you can get at our website, sfrep.com. Next month, and before the end of this webinar, I'll get you the date, but next month I'm going to be doing a preview webinar where I'm going to be demonstrating what we have so far and the way that we're going to be implementing the new UAD in Appraise-It Pro. But because we're so new as far as our code base is, we are going to be able to do it in a way that I think you guys are going to love. Most software vendors, as far as I can tell, and so what's been announced publicly so far, are using what they call kind of the wizard interface, or what a lot of times is being described as the TurboTax interface, where they will guide you through it step by step. That's the easy way to do this. What we're going to be doing is we are going to be basically having a dynamic form built into Appraise-It Pro. So you'll start out a report, and as you start filling it out and answering questions, filling out the actual form like you would now, the new sections will basically appear below, so you can just keep on moving through the report. So the way that you do your reports will not change appreciably from the way that you're doing them now. Whereas with other software providers, it's going to be a drastic change because you're going to be moving from filling out a form that looks like something that's going to be printed out for the end user. You're going to move from that to moving over to doing this like wizard interface where it collects information for you. We're not going to do that. We're going to keep the paradigm very similar to what you guys are doing now. And I think that's the better way to do this, but it's also the harder way to do it. So we're working really hard, and I think we're going to have something really cool to show you next month. I'm going to be putting out a produced video on it, and we're going to be doing some webinars on it. So keep that in mind. If you've never done one of these webinars with us, along the bottom, if you're on the desktop version of YouTube, so on a laptop or a desktop, along the bottom of the video window, there'll be a little toolbar when you mouse over it. There will be a set of brackets there. If you click on that, that's going to make the video go full screen. Now you're going to lose the chat if you do that, so just keep that in mind. The other thing is you're going to have an elongated rectangle there. If you click on that, it's going to put YouTube in theater mode, which is what I would recommend you do. It'll make the video bigger and easier to see, and the chat will move from the right-hand side down to the bottom. Okay? That chat's important. I do want to hear from you. If you have any questions, just go ahead and throw them in the chat. I may not answer them right away, but I will answer them and get them answered for you. Also, welcome to my home. Us here at SFREP, we all work from home, so this is my dedicated office. There's my wife's computer right there. So, once again, let me know if you have any questions, okay? Now, if you're watching this webinar after the fact, you can contact us via email. You can ask any questions that you might have during the webinar if you're watching it later via email, or if you're shy. Training@sfrep.com is that email address. Feel free to go ahead and fire off an email to me there. Or if you are not signed to the YouTube and you don't have the chat, you can feel free to send a message to that email address, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Always keep in mind, though, if you have immediate needs for assistance, you're going to want to contact our tech support, which is tech@sfrep.com, or you can call them toll free, 800-644-4051. Now, our tech support is not 24 hours a day, but it is 7 days a week. So if you have any problems, no matter what time of the week it is, we'll be happy to assist you both via telephone and via chat and email. All right. So what we're going to be talking about today is I'm going to kind of give you an overview, a very early overview of Appraise-It Pro. This is kind of a primer that can get you started in using Appraise-It Pro, and it's also going to kind of show you what Appraise-It Pro is all about in case you are wanting to move over to Appraise-It Pro. We do, and we're the only ones in the industry that do this, we offer everyone 6 months for free. That is no strings attached. When you reach the end of that 6 months, you can cancel and go about your merry way, and we'll part ways and shake hands. But we are giving it away because we think you're really going to like it, and it aids you in moving over from Alamode, ACI, or Bradford, especially Alamode and ACI, where they put you under a year-long contract. When you're about 6 months away from the end of your contract, we recommend starting to play with our software. That way you have access to your old files, your old reports, and you can go back and to that familiar space and get a report out if you need to. So if you get, if you get sidetracked and you're not sure how to do something, and you just need to get something out, you can fall back to your old software. All right. But I think you're going to really like what we have to offer. So with that being said, oh, by the way, if you are a current customer using our older Appraise-It Classic software, you can move over to Appraise-It Pro at no additional charge. All you got to do is go to our website, click on the demo link up at the top to download Appraise-It Pro, because it's not a special version that you do when you click on the demo. It's just the latest version. Click on that, download it, install it, and then you can start using it. If you need to, though, you can contact our tech support and they can walk you through it as well. All right? All right, so let's go ahead and take a look. Uh-oh, hold on. Okay, interesting. Give me just a second, guys, because I do need to correct something. And sometimes this will happen when I've switched monitor inputs. There we go. Make sure you can still, okay, cool. Now we can see it. Sometimes I have to do that if I've been monkeying around, and I changed my graphics card a couple days ago, so I had to reset that and didn't, so my apologies. Anyway, now you're looking at my screen. Now I have two screens. You're looking at my secondary screen. So when I crank up Appraise-It Pro here, you're not going to see the splash screen because that always comes up on my primary monitor, which you can't see right now. So the splash screen is up. It's going to take it just a second. I don't think I've run Appraise-It Pro today. When you do your first run of the day, it takes a little bit longer to launch than when you come back to it after you've already used it, because it keeps some parts of it in the memory. So when you start up Appraise-It Pro, and let me get rid of this. No, I'll leave it there, it's fine. When you start up Appraise-It Pro, you are going to be in the, what Microsoft calls and what our developers call the backstage. I like to call it the super file menu because that's a little bit more descriptive about what it is, because everything that's here is also generally in the file menu of your other software. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. And I'll show you what I mean here in a minute. As a matter of fact, if I click on this little arrow here, it's going to take me to the main editing area of Appraise-It. Now I don't have a file open right now, so this is all blank. But to get back to that starting point, what I do is I click on the file menu, and you notice that the file menu is separated out here by having a dark background. And that's kind of the super file menu aspect of it. So if I click on it, it takes me back to this area called the backstage. It's a theater reference. It kind of makes sense if you think about it. When you first open up Appraise-It Pro, you're going to be in a section of the backstage called the welcome screen. And this is just a place where we can put news and important things for you to read and know about, but that we don't necessarily want to bother you by sending an email or calling you or having you call or anything like that. We don't update it too often. We try to keep it just to important things. You can see the last time that it was used was back in October of last year. We haven't even used it this year, but whenever we have something major to put on here, we'll post it here for you to be able to read it. They're never going to be images or GIFs or videos here. It's going to be nice and understated. Now, over here on the left-hand side in this dark gray area here, this is your menu bar for the Backstage. We have welcome, new, open, search settings. We'll go over all of these. You'll notice that these are grayed out because I don't have a report open currently, but these are also duplicated under the home menu. So they're just redundant and I don't really go over them. We also have new window and exit. New window is important for those of you moving over from Appraise-It Classic. You can have as many instances or versions of Appraise-It Pro open as you wish. And you can have multiple reports open and you can copy and paste between them and edit multiple reports at the same time. You can have as many opens as you wish. And then of course, exit's very self-explanatory. You're just gonna exit the program, does the same thing as clicking on the X in the upper right-hand corner. So we've already gone over welcome. Let's move on to new. This is your file index from the old Appraise-It Classic, your file new for most other programs. This is where you're gonna start a blank appraisal from. Now, some of you and most of you probably use, if you're using Appraise-It Classic, use skeletons. If you're using another software, you probably call them templates, and we have that available here too. If you want though, if you don't have a template, you can use this report list to open up any type of report type that you want. This is going to be the primary report type, okay? So if you're looking for something, maybe I'm looking for 2055, I can just type in 2055 up here in the search box, and it's going to show me all of the different references to 2055 that there are. So in this case, it's showing me the UAD version. It's showing it under frequently used, which is going to be the last 10 report types that you've opened up. It also shows up under Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, non-lender, and legacy. Now these non-lender forms are basically like the regular UAD forms, except they have references to lending obviously removed from them, but otherwise they're the same. And then the legacy form is the pre-2005 version of the forms. So before we got the more modern form and definitely before we got the UAD version of it. This is the pre-2005 version. We keep this in here for backwards compatibility and because some people still use it for non-lender work as well. So it's still in there. If I want to see everything again, I just click on the X and now I see everything. Now, if I single click on something, if I double click on something, it's going to open up the default template. The way Appraise-It Pro works is the default template, when it opens up, it has some starting forms for you. So, as a matter of fact, if I go ahead and do this now, I'm just going to double click on it. And I have this little checkbox down here checked, which is going to put suggested forms in there. So you can see it opens up a blank new UAD 1004, but it's not empty. It has some different addenda and minor forms that are placed in there for you that you may use, your mapping, your images, stuff like that to get you started. All right, so let me close back out of this because we'll go back to this later. So that's what happens if I double click there. But if I single click there, you'll notice this little templates box over here on the right-hand side has all of the templates that I've created for this particular report type. Now, most of the templates I've created here are for individual towns and cities that are in, that would be in like my territory that I do appraisals in. But you can make a template for obviously for whatever reason you want, whether it's for individual different lenders, or different report types, different situations, different locales, zip codes, whatever you want. You can name it whatever you want. It's your template. And all you really need to know here is that a template is nothing more, and this is a difference from Appraise-It Classic. A template is much easier to use than it was than a skeleton was in Appraise-It Classic. A template is simply a regular report file that you have promoted to template status. So if you want to make a template, all you have to do is open up a regular report, fill it out with whatever you want, build the structure of it whatever way you want, and then you can just simply save it as a template. And it can have images already in it, the template can have verbiage already entered into it, and it can be in whatever order that you like to format your forms in, your reports in. If you don't like a template, you can just delete it from here by clicking on this little thing and saying, yes, I'm not going to do that right now. But you have your default template, and then you have the ones you've created. Now this default template, I have this little checkbox checked down here. So it's going to include the suggested forms in the default template. If you want a blank as can be default template, when you open it up with nothing in it except what's required, you can uncheck this checkbox and that's what you'll get. But I think you'll probably want to at least include the suggested forms in there as a starting place for you. So that's how you're going to start a new report, whether it's from a template or it's from a blank, report starting from scratch or using one of your templates. Now, some people also like to start a report from an existing report, and you can most certainly do that in Appraise-It Pro. That's where Open is going to come in. Now, Open and Search kind of do the same thing in a lot of ways. I think you will not be coming here to Open as much as you will be coming to Search. The big thing that Open is going to give you is the recent reports list. So if you just want to go back to the report you were working on a couple of days ago and you don't want to go to Search and have to search for it and do all that rigmarole, you can just come to Open and go down to your recent searches, and maybe it's down here towards the bottom, double click on it, and then get on with your life. This is probably the most helpful thing that you're going to be doing in the Open menu. However, we have some other things you can do. You can open a report. So if you want to browse to a report manually, you can do that from here. You can open up a classic report, meaning a report that was created in Appraise-It Classic, or you can open up a MISMO document. Now, this could be helpful if you're moving over from another software like Alamode or ACI, opening up a MISMO document. If you've been collecting your MISMO documents, maybe storing them and archiving them away in a folder, we can take that folder, put it as a subfolder in Appraise-It Pro, and Appraise-It Pro will go through all of those reports and will index them and hoover out all the information for them and put them into the database for you, your report database. The cool thing about Appraise-It Pro is it really makes no distinction between an Appraise-It Pro report, an Appraise-It Classic report, or a MISMO XML version of a report. It treats all of them like they're native reports. So if you double click on a MISMO XML file that you either got from a friend or that you created in an older software, your old software like Alamode or ACI, it will open up just as if it was a native report file in Appraise-It Pro. The other thing, for those of you coming over from Appraise-It Classic, we have templates here. Skeletons and templates are roughly the same thing. However, we're not going to automatically convert your skeletons over to templates, okay? We recommend creating new templates so you have fresh new things to start with, and you're going to learn the program a lot better if you build fresh templates. But we do understand that when you're moving over, there may be some skeletons that were really complex that you don't really want to recreate from the beginning. So we do give you the option down here to open a classic skeleton, browse to it. Our tech support can help you with this. You'll be able to browse to it, load it in. It'll load in like a regular report file. Then you can make the changes, clean it up a little bit, and then you can save it as a template. So we do give you that. Once again, if you need guidance and help with this, our tech support's there to help you out. They'll walk you through it. Next is going to be search. This is where you search for your previous reports that have already been indexed together. And once again, if you're moving over from ACI, Alamode, or Bradford, we can take all of your old MISMO XML files from your previous software, put them into a subfolder in Appraise-It Pro, and they'll all be indexed and they'll be available to you. And you'll be able to search for them. Once again, remember, Appraise-It Pro makes no distinction between Appraise-It Pro reports and reports that are made in Classic or whatever. Treats them all the same. So this is where you're going to search for information. So let's say I want a partial street address. If I'm looking for a specific street address, maybe I'm looking for a report. I know I did it 2 years ago and it was on Painted Tree Road. So if I start typing PA, it's going to fill it in for me already because it knows what I'm starting to type. And I can even do a full address. So there's 10949 Painted Tree Road. But if I just type in Painted, because I don't remember what the number was, well, now I can just do a search for Painted. Wait, and there we go. Now I can do that search, and there's my file that I found from Painted Tree Road, and maybe I did it 2 years ago. So yeah, it was done in 2019. So it's going to give me over here on the right. These are my search results, and I've only done one report on Painted Tree Road, so it only shows me one report. If I had multiple reports, it would show up here. Over here on the right-hand side, it's going to give me the front view photo, so I can, oh yeah, that's the one. That's the one I was looking for. And it's going to give me some key information down here at the bottom to also aid me in knowing that I have the right one. But if you want to look at all the information that's stored in the database about that particular address, you can just simply scroll out here to the right. This is formatted in a cell format, kind of like you would see in Excel, like Microsoft Excel. And if you had a list of candidates here, if I had done a lot of reports on Painted Tree Road, I could click on sort them by modification date, sort them by the report number, the file number, whatever. And I can fill out more of these if I want. So if I want just to see all the reports that I did in a specific zip code, I could just come down here, type in a zip code, and then do search, and I'll see all the reports I did in that zip code, which just happens to be the same one. Is the only one I did in that zip code. But if I wanted to get more broad with it, I could do the city here. I don't have to really put the state. State can be helpful though if you're licensed obviously in more than one state. But I could put the city in here, do a search, and I'll see everything that I've done in that particular city. If I don't want one of these items in the list, if I never search by state because I'm only licensed, let's say in North Carolina, I can click on remove here, say yes, and it's gone. Now, if I want to put it back, I can come over here to add field, select state. They're in alphabetical order, there's state. But now it's orphaned down here in the bottom, so I can use these little arrows here to move it back up on the list to put it back where it belongs after city. All right? And temporarily, if I want to search on something other than gross living area, I could use this pull down and select something like map reference instead. And then when I'm done, I can go back and put it as gross living area. All right. To open up any of these reports, all I got to do is double click and then they'll open up. All right. Now there's some other things that I show you in our tips and tricks webinar, which is kind of a part 2 to this. Things like export results, open up work file, that kind of stuff. We'll show you that in the tips and tricks webinar. Finally, there's settings. If you are somebody who likes to tinker, you can come in here to settings and you can basically change a lot of the settings here in Appraise-It Pro to kind of make it your own. I do recommend writing down anything you change, that way if it creates an unwanted result, you know where to come back and make the change. And if you are someone who is a little bit shy about monkeying around with technical stuff, you may want to only come in here when you have one of our technicians with you. All right. So let's come back up here to new. And I'm just going to open up a default template here, and we're going to kind of go over the editing of a report. Now, if you're coming over from Appraise-It Classic, or if you are coming over from another software, you will feel fairly comfortable here. The concepts are kind of the same. Now, this is going to change when we move to the new UAD, but for right now, doing regular UAD in Appraise-It Pro is very similar to what you would do in ACI, a la mode, or Bradford. It's just things are in a little bit different place. We have a different philosophy of how to lay things out, but the concepts are the same. So we have 4 panels here that are by default: report, validator, responses, and format. There's also a little hidden one called help, but I'll go over that here in a little while. For those of you moving over from Classic, report, this is the panel that you're going to need to pay attention to when I go over it, because this is going to be the biggest difference between Appraise-It Classic and Appraise-It Pro. For those of you moving over from ACI, a la mode, or Bradford, this is going to be second nature to you. It's going to be the way that you've been doing it for a while, and that is that Appraise-It Pro uses what's called the container method, meaning we open up an empty container, and then we put the forms and addenda that we need into that container, and we layer them in the way that we want it. So I'm starting out with a blank report, but it has the suggested forms in it, okay? Forms and addenda. So right here, here's my primary report. This is the first 6 pages of the report, the primary part of the 1004, the UAD 1004. I also have extended comments, report profile, UAD sales, comps, and adjustments. Now you may have noticed that I've got some icons over here on the left-hand side. The star means that is the star of the report. It's the primary type of report I'm doing. Cool thing here is that I could add another primary report type and thus convert this 1004 into, say, well, you would never generally go from a 1004 to a 2055, but maybe I started out and I found out that it's a weird split level condo and I need to use the condo form. Then I could just dump the condo form into the report and it will automatically change it from a 1004 to a condo form. The lock icons, they signify that these particular addenda or minor reports, they are, in this case addenda, they are required for the operation of the report. Okay, so you can't delete them, they have to stay in there. And then the little green pluses, I'll go over that here a little bit in a minute, but that means that you can add more of those by just clicking on the green plus. Now, if I want to change the order of things here, like let's say I like to start off my report by having the location map at the beginning, what I can do is I can click on location map and then simply click and hold and drag it up here to the top to move it around. If I want to put it back, I can just put it there back before the flood map, and there you go. So you can drag and move these all around. Let's say that this particular report is, let's say the subject is on the side of a big hill, so flooding is definitely not a concern. Well, what I can do is I can just click and remove the flood map, say yes, and it's gone. You are, especially those of you moving from Appraise-It Classic, the name of the game here is to keep your report tidy. If you are not going to be using a addenda or a minor form that's in there, addendum, or I always get that wrong. If you're not going to be using an addendum or one of the minor forms, you need to get rid of it. And the reason for that is that when you open this thing up 2 months later, you want to be able to look at this report panel and know exactly what is in your report, what order it was in, and how it was delivered to your lender. So don't keep things in here that aren't filled out. Now, it's not going to cause the whole thing to explode on you if you do, but it's just going to make it easier. Keeping it tidy, it's going to make it easier for you to find things and instantly know what you were doing. Adding something to this list. If I click on add, it's going to bring up the add remove forms dialog here. And if I want to add something like, say, the flood map, I can click and drag it over to where it needs to be. In this case, I'm going to put it after the location map again. There it is. Click. Now, this is just a representation of this. And I can still move things around if I need to as well. Once I've got this the way I want it, click Save and Close, and then it's going to go ahead and put all that stuff in just like I wanted it in the report panel here. The other thing I can do is I can rename stuff. So instead of saying general photos, maybe these are photos, and this says this is 3 photos per page on legal. And then I also have 6 photos per page on legal. So there's your 6 photos per page on legal size paper. So what I can do is, maybe this is the garage photos. Maybe it has a really cool garage and I took a bunch of photos of it. So what I can do is I can rename this and I can say garage photos. And then I'm going to just replicate this and say 6/legal. So I know which one it is. Oh, that's not a slash. Let's try that again. 6. There we go. That way I know that this was the 6 per page. Click OK. And now it just says garage photos instead of general photos. And thus, I don't have to open up this addendum to know what is contained in it. I know it's the garage photos. Save myself a little bit of time on the back end. Remember, if you have any questions, just dump them into the chat. Hello, JD. See you in there. Appreciate you let me know you're there. Once again, I love hearing from you guys. If you have any questions at all, I want you to let me know, and I'll be happy to answer them. And once again, remember, you can email training@sfrep.com. All right. Next panel is our validator panel. It's below. The validator panel is going to do twofold. One, it is going to be checking your work as you go, and then it has a comprehensive validation that you can do at the end by clicking this little validate button. The easiest way for me to show you the validation that happens real time, it does it in a bunch of different places, checking your math, checking your formatting, your UAD formatting, things like that, is in the state field. If I type in NC here, tab out, it has no problem with that. It's perfectly happy with it. But if I accidentally do BC, now it's going to turn red. BC is a Canadian province, British Columbia. It's not a US state, so it turns red. But if I came in here and I was doing a report, let's say in Puerto Rico, it knows that that's part of the US, so it's fine with that. But SK, Saskatchewan is not a US state, so it has a problem with it. If I do Nuevo Leon for Mexico, obviously that's not a US state, it has a problem with it. Now, if you happen to be somewhere in the report, elsewhere in the report, and you glance over here to the validator panel and you notice that it says hard stop state, if I click on it, single click on it, it's going to tell me the state's abbreviation must be a valid 2-character US state abbreviation, example NC. Okay, now that I know that. And it is saying, we chose NC specifically because that's a 2-word state, also because that's where we're based. But it's a 2-word state, so we're showing you don't put dots in there, obviously. Now, if I want to change that, I double click. It's going to jump me back to the state. I see where I've made my mistake. We change it to be NC, and now it's happy, and that goes away. Now that's a very simplistic way to show you what it's doing, but in other areas, and this differentiates us from some of the other software out there in that we allow the user to type in UAD fields directly without the use of a little helper that pops up. Because you guys have been doing this for years and years and years, what, 11 or 12 years now? So you can very easily, you know the formatting by heart now. So if I type in something here and I put location wooded, tab out, that's not in proper UAD formatting. All the UAD fields here are in green. So that is not a valid UAD format, so it turns red. Now, if I need help in doing that, it's not going to pop up a little window at me. What I'm actually going to do, and by the way, notice down here in the validator panel, it's giving me the hard stop there because I got bad formatting. What I can do is I can come over here to the format panel and fill it out properly. Beneficial, and we want, we'll call it adjacent to park, other, yeah, we'll just do that. Adjacent to park, hit apply, and now it puts it into the proper UAD formatting for me. So we don't pop up a little window at you or an overlay. We didn't want to get in your way, so we just put it over here on the right-hand side. And notice that when I am not in a formatted field, which is green, it does give me the color key here. So the active field is gray. These light blue fields are inactive fields. And if they're darker blue, like these right here, that's letting me know that there are extended comments that are associated with it. Don't worry about extended comments. They're going to be invoked when they need to be. As you keep typing into the field, if you run out of room, it will automatically open up the extended comments for you. And our extended comments are in, they're like word processing pages, so you can put additional photos in there, you can put tables, whatever you want. We also give you word processing pages, kind of like having Word built into Appraise-It Pro. If you do a search for Word, you'll see them, word processing addendum. I'm going to add that to the report, come down here to the end, open it up. And when I do, you can see that it basically opens up like Word built into Appraise-It Pro. And here we give you free reign. You can do whatever you want. You can put photos, charts, tables, different formatting, whatever, like, you know, knock yourself out. Whatever you would do in Word, you can do here. Okay. Notice also up here at the top that we have a tabbed interface. So as I open up additional addenda, they come up here at the top as tabs, just like you would have in a word process or in a browser. And then when you're done with something, you can just click on the X. It doesn't remove it from the report. It's just you're not looking at it any longer. In the same way that if you close a tab in your web browser, it doesn't remove that site from the web. It's just you're not looking at it anymore. Same concept here. Over here is responses. I've kind of already gone over formatting. Oh, validator, one more thing. When you're done with your report, click on the validate button. That will invoke the comprehensive validation. That's going to go through your report with a fine-tooth comb. It is going to check your spelling, check your math, check all your formatting, all that kind of stuff is going to be done there. But only do that when you're done with the report, because it can, if you try to do it now, it's just everything's going to turn red and it's going to look like a giant mess, because I've forgotten a lot of stuff. I haven't filled stuff out. Finally, let's go over here to responses. If you're moving over from Appraise-It Classic, this is basically your F keys that used to be at the top, and you can still assign things F keys. It's just it's not up on a bar at the top anymore. But you can have as many responses as you wish. Right here, I'm just using the city field as an example, and there's a couple of ways that you can use these responses. First of all, if I've already assigned it to an F key, so F4 is Charlotte, if I hit the F4 key, it puts in Charlotte. Okay, or I can come over here and just double click and it'll put in Charlotte. Or, this is my favorite way, I can just start typing CH, it knows I mean Charlotte, it'll autofill it for me, and I tab out. And then the final way is I can hit F2 on my keyboard, and then I can select it from a list that drops down, and there's Charlotte. Now, what if I want to put something new in here and I want to assign it to an F key? So what I can do here is I can type in Gastonia. And then I can click on Manage Responses. And there's a key combination to do this as well. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. If you're interested in that, send me an email and I'll find out what it is for you. But I just like to come over there, click on Manage Responses. It's already filled it in there. I don't need a title. The title would be if you were doing like a multi-sentence response. You may want to give it a title just to sum it all up. And I can assign it to an F key. So right now I am 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I can assign it to F8. Hit save, hit close, and now here's Gastonia over here. And once again, I can start typing, or it's assigned to F8. I hit F8 on my keyboard, and it'll put it in there for me. Remember, I did tell you that there was this hidden panel over here called Help. If you are new to appraising, not to appraise it, but to appraising in general, if you're new or if you have a trainee that's working under you, this can be very helpful. You click on the Help here, and any field that you're in, it's going to give you a synopsis of what's supposed to go in that field and give you guidance on the way that it should be put in there. So under here, under assignment type, here is our little text field. If you checked the other box, enter additional information here about the assignment's purchase type. So now it just tells me exactly what I need to do. Now, for those of you who have been doing this for years and years and decades, you don't need this, obviously. But for someone who's new, this can be very helpful to them. So I just want to make sure everybody's aware that it's there. Let's see here. PDF word processing, gone over that. I'm just kind of going over my list to make sure I'm covering everything for you guys. Automatic shrinking text. We have that for those of you. I know Bradford has this, and I think the other softwares do as well. But let's say, let's type in Charlotte. I can get one in there. I can get 2 Charlottes in there. But if I try to go 3, obviously I'm going to run off the edge. But what Appraise-It Pro is going to do is you notice that it starts shrinking the font so that I can fit additional information. Now, this is something you can turn off if you wish. You can also say how small you want the text to actually get before it starts running over. Because when I come back in here and I keep trying to do Charlotte, it reaches a point where it's not going to shrink any further. But you can look here, and when I have 3 of them in there, if you were looking at this in the context of a printed out report, you would be hard pressed to be able to tell that that's a different font or a different size than the rest of the report. So that's available to you there. These panels here are movable. You can actually click and pull them out and put them on a different monitor and rearrange them. I go over that more in depth in our tips and tricks webinar, which we have coming up next week. But in doing that, you may accidentally end up pulling it out like I just did. And instead of and then when you start trying to put it back, you might be like, oh, well, here, I'll do this. And now the whole thing's a mess. If this happens to you, the one thing I do want you to know right now is that if this happens to you, don't freak out. Come over here to View, select Reset to Default, say yes, and it'll put everything back in the standard way it's supposed to be. And then the final thing that I want to show you guys before we continue and take some of these questions that I saw are coming in, the last thing I want to show you here, and then we'll go to questions, is this little status down here at the bottom. When Hurricane Helene came through, most of our programmers and our tech support people are in Western North Carolina, and as all of you know, Western North Carolina was devastated. Luckily, everyone that works for SFREP is fine. There was some property damage, but it's nothing major. But what it did do is it knocked out power, cell service, and internet for about a week. And so, basically, I haven't done tech support in maybe 15 years. So I jumped in because I live in Charlotte. I wasn't affected. I had power, internet, everything. I jumped in and started doing tech support, or at least trying to do tech support. But we wanted to communicate to people that, hey, we have a reduced service level because I only got like 1, maybe 2 people doing tech support, and one of them doesn't know what the heck he's doing. So what we did was we changed this to yellow. So right now it's green. Everything's working fine. But we changed it to yellow, saying there was degraded service on our customer service lines. If it turns red, that'll let you know that something's legit down. So let's say if the server for flood maps goes down, or the CoreLogic service that runs the flood maps goes down, we'll turn this red, letting you know. You don't even have to call in that there's something going on. This is all real time. And you can even click on it and it will give you a synopsis. And if you click on that, you'll actually be able to go to this website, status.sfrep.com, and it will give you additional information about that particular outage, how long it's been going on, and when we think that it will be resolved. All right, let's get to some of these questions here. Let me pull this up. Whoops, hold on. Nope, there we go. Okay, questions, get them in to the chat or email them to training@sfrep.com. Let's see here. JD said, are there any tools for transferring comments from other software? Unfortunately, no. Other software providers, including us, we do it too. They encrypt all of their stuff. And so we can't, because of the Digital Millennium Copyright Act of 1996, we can't go in and hoover all that information out, unfortunately. But what you can do is you can open up Mismo XMLs. Actually, you know what I would say you could do if you have some really complex ones is open up the two pieces of software side by side and just copy and paste them in. That's probably the easiest way to do it. And our tech support can help you out with that. Robin says, what will be available to import comps and MC form data? I go over that more in my tips and tricks. And we also have, by the way, we have a YouTube channel. Let me show it to you real quick. Over YouTube here. I'm an aviation enthusiast. So I'm a technology and aviation guy. So you can see that's what's going to be on my YouTube here. So if I come in here and I do, if I go to SFREP's page, which is simply youtube.com/SFREP, and then I go to playlists, we have a playlist in here called New to SFREP and Appraise-It Pro. There's also one for people who already are customers of SFREP that are moving to a pro called Learning Appraise-It Pro. But if you're coming in from another software, I would go to New to SFREP and Appraise-It Pro. And this is just going to be a list of, it's been doing this recently. That is a YouTube issue. There it goes. Yeah, so that's just an ad. If you see here, I have this whole playlist here. Go away, skip. There we go. So I have a whole playlist here of different topics that you may want to go over. For specific questions like that, I'd probably either contact me via email or contact support. They can go over that with you. But for managing, let me see what your question was. For importing comps and MC form data. For what you're specifically wanting to do, I would recommend under services. So tools are local tools built into Appraise-It Pro. Services are web-based. The one I would use is Profit.ai. Now, you get 5 free lookups with Appraise-It Pro, whether you are demoing Appraise-It Pro or if you are moving over to Appraise-It Pro from Appraise-It Classic. You get 5 free lookups for Profit.ai. It's a great third-party software that's really well designed, and it aids you in choosing your listings and your comps. And it has a backdoor to your MLS, and it has a backdoor to your county records. So it'll show you the county record data, and it will show you the MLS data, and you can reconcile if there's any differences. It'll even highlight the differences for you. You can bring over the photos. So that's a great way, and it fills out your 1004MC. So that's a great way to both fill out your 1004MC and import comp information from the MLS. We also have, under tools, the Comp Manager. And by the way, both Profit.ai and Comp Manager both have their own videos on our YouTube page. So just do a search for SFREP Comp Manager, SFREP Profit.ai, and it's spelled weird. It's PROFET.ai. And you'll find the video, and you can watch that video, and it'll kind of go over it with you. And our tech support can help you out and walk you through it as well. All right. But we also do have the comp. Oops. How do I do that? Stop. There we go. We also have the Comp Manager and the Image Manager. Comp Manager will automatically hoover out all the data about every single address that you use, whether it's a listing comp or the subject, and put it into a database for you so that you can reference back to it or you reuse it later. And it'll also notify you through the validator if you said, like, okay, this was a C2, but you said it was a C3 on a previous appraisal report, it'll flag that and notify you as well, okay? We were actually the first ones to start doing that. And then Image Manager is just it's kind of an easy way for you to get images off of your memory card and put them in the report. You can also just simply go to a image page and just, whoops, that's not what I want. And just simply double click here and you'll be able to, you can copy, you can right click and you can paste images in, or you can drag them in from a folder or something like that. You can drag and drop directly in there as well. That's also an easy way to do photos. We have a whole webinar that we do and we're doing managing photos because, man, you want to talk about that. That's probably the most complex thing that people try to do is getting their photos all properly organized and managed. We go over all that kind of stuff with you. Hopefully that answers your question, Robin. If not, let me know. JD says, full Spark compatibility. Yes, absolutely. We integrate directly with Spark, with Data Master, with Map Pro. Pretty much, we're kind of an open platform and anybody can integrate with us. And we'll either build the integration for them and do a profit sharing, or if someone comes to us and is like, hey, we want to integrate with your software, what do we need to do? Well, we send them over to a special website that we have that has all the API and the interface and everything that programmers need to know, and they can build their own integration. So we make it as easy as possible for anybody to integrate with us because we want everybody to integrate with us because that's good for you guys. Okay, I think that's the last of the questions I have right now. Remember, if you have any questions later on, you think of them later on, or if you're watching this video after the fact, just simply email training@sfrep.com and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. If you need more immediate assistance, because if you email that training@sfrep.com, it could be 24 hours before I get back to you. If you need immediate assistance, send an email to tech@sfrep.com. Or you can call them 7 days a week, 800-644-4051. Monday through Friday, it's between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. So, make the necessary calculations for wherever you live, whatever time zone you're in. That's Eastern time, 8 to 8. And on the weekends, I think it's like 1 to 7 or something like that. I'll have to look it up. It's on our website. But yeah, we're available 7 days a week if you need any assistance. Any last minute questions? All right, I don't think so. So I want to thank you guys for hanging out with us. We do at least one webinar a week. If you go to our website, click on training, it will have the full webinar schedule, and of course we also email them out to you whenever they happen. But generally once a week. I think next week we're doing a Sketch-It webinar. No, we're doing tips and tricks, and then in 2 weeks we're doing a Sketch-It webinar. And sometimes I'm traveling, so sometimes you'll see me doing these from a hotel room, but today I'm actually home, which is nice. Thank you so much. If you're considering moving over to Appraise-It Pro, remember 6 months absolutely free, no strings attached, and that includes unlimited tech support. We don't separate out our tech support into tiers and make you pay for it. We don't nickel and dime you. You pay a fee and everybody gets great tech support. The cool thing I'll say about our tech support, if you ever want to call them, you just call 800-644-4051. I would say around 95% of the time, 90 to 95% of the time, they're just going to answer right away because they're not that busy because we have very stable software. I mean, take what I say as a grain of salt, but we have very stable software. So generally when you call that tech support line, someone's going to answer right away, and it's great. If they're not available, we don't make you wait in a queue. We will actually have you leave a message, and then we'll call you back as soon as we're available. That way, you can move on with your life and do other things. I hope that you learned something today. And if you got any tips, if you got any questions, let me know. Training@sfrep.com. I hope all the rest of you guys have a wonderful week. Well, actually, you don't. You're going to have a wonderful weekend. It's Friday, right? Yeah, it's Friday. So you're going to have a wonderful weekend, and I hope next week's great for you too. Thank you so much, and stay safe out there.